reaction that business owners have when they truly understand what their culture is versus what they think it is. They're always shocked. Apple and Google, they also have it right. Apple has an unbelievable culture of fanatic fans all over the planet. Welcome to Culture Shock. My name is Barry Saltzman and I will be your host. As CEO of Saltzman Enterprise Group, I spend my day working with professionals and business owners, helping them reach their full potential. During the last few years, I've noticed that culture really needs to become an important part of a business's strategy. Every business owner I talk to always tells me, people are my greatest assets. And I ask them, how do you know? How do you measure that? What are you doing from a culture perspective, similar to the way you measure your financials? So the purpose of this show, Culture Shock, is to talk to people in the industry who are doing something about culture, thought leaders, business owners, technology firms that are addressing culture and helping businesses thrive around people as their greatest asset. So today I'm honored to have Michael Hahn here in the studio. Michael, thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Michael and I go back many years. In fact, probably 3-4 years ago, Michael hosted a team building event where me and my son were on these high ropes learning how to trust each other, which was a lot of fun, Michael. And since then, you have taken on a very interesting project and initiative over at Allstate, working on culture, and you talk about raving fans and ambassadors. So, introduce yourself. Tell us, a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Great, thanks. I'm glad to be here. So where did I come from? Basically, I was in finance and strategy in the McDonald's system for about 12 and a half years, and we did this big ERP project, and I said, gosh, where's the people side of change? And it was missing. I understand the financial side of it and how you need that integration and things, but the change management was poorly done. So I said, all right, I need to figure this out. Went to grad school, leadership and change management, said, all right, I'm gonna do this. And then I got into this field called organizational development, organization effectiveness, which is really all about culture. And the big thing is that culture happens no matter what. You have a culture. Whether you have the culture you want or you want a different culture. Culture is really just the attitudes and assumptions and beliefs and behaviors within the organization that are happening, good or bad. And so I was fortunate enough to very, very grateful for the position to be at Allstate, where we have a culture movement called the Allstate Ambassadors. Basically, I call that those self-nominated raving fan employees. And in there, we have 7,600 employees who said, we bleed Allstate blue. We love Allstate, and we want to help Allstate be even more successful. So like in any good culture movement, you have your certain amount of structure that you provide, and then there's a certain amount of flexibility that those enthused, engaged employees really bring to make the movement work.
Awesome. So obviously Allstate has a mission as a business. So what is your mission from a culture perspective? How do you know that you're achieving success aligned with Allstate's mission for this program?
Yeah. Well, I think of it in this way. You need to have organizational health. If you want to have the culture, that's great, but it's got to be in service of the business results. Because without the business results, there will be no need to have a culture. So they really work hand in hand. At Allstate, we have a mission for the ambassador group that we improve Allstate's reputation in the community and we drive business results. And I think the predecessors before me did a great job of setting it up so that we get out in the community and we volunteer and we get engaged locally so that we bring the good hands to life. And I think the challenge coming in was, hey Michael, how can you bring your business sense and your eye for the business and the financials to help us drive business results with this group of folks? So it's been a journey. I'm learning a lot. I've learned a lot, and I think what I've found is, like I said, if you think about a bowling lane and you have a child who's out there, you got to put bumpers out there to make sure that the bowling ball doesn't fall into the gutter. Same kind of principle applies. You want to make sure that you put some sort of bumpers out there or guardrails to allow your employees to really live into and do things. You got to give them the what. If the what's to drive business results and the what's to improve reputation, then let them have the how, but give them some guardrails about how they can go about achieving those things.
So why does it matter to Allstate? So at some point somebody woke up or a group woke up, a committee got formed. Why does this matter to them?
Well, I mean, you need to have employees bring their best to work. It's very important for Allstate employees to bring their whole selves to work. And a lot of times, the jobs that individuals have don't utilize their whole selves. So this allows an opportunity for people to really unleash themselves and to bring a side that they don't have. So some of the roles that we ask them to play are to volunteer out in the community, to champion some of the initiatives of Allstate in their local area, to innovate their ideas and cycle those back into their local departments, to give them to their managers, or to bring them to the enterprise as a whole, and then to recruit passive talent for Allstate and also recruit more ambassadors to this movement. Really, it's about word of mouth. And then on top of that, it's about, hey, getting Allstate insurance, talking to your friends and family about it, and really understanding the experience of going through the process of getting and having Allstate insurance. We ask them to do those things, and how they do it, I don't really care how they do it. But it's really about having them help us continue to refine what the movement looks like, and having them inform me of how I can be their number one supporter. I may lead the movement, but I am really the number one supporter of each of their sub-movements and subcultures in there.
Right. So earlier we talked a lot about sports and, New England, New York, the competition there. Obviously my team has no culture, your team does. So how do you know when you have good culture? In sports, you could see it in terms of championships and, legacy a team has. From a business perspective, how do you know when you have a good culture?
Yeah, it's a feeling, and I think that the feeling comes from having the results that are there. Because if you have a good culture, it's not going to be sustainable unless you have the business results to continue to give you new opportunities as you grow for people to expand and develop and things like that. So you know it because your business results are there, and you know it because there's this feeling. You have the collaboration because people want to communicate and work together. You have people who are present, and they're doing their job, and they're doing their job well. They're asking questions, the next questions. They're looking around corners for customers. They're doing all the sorts of things that really expand beyond just putting in my time.
On the flip side, what does it take to kill a culture?
Yeah, you can kill a culture. It's hard to kill a culture because I picture, just like Jim Collins talks about, that massive flywheel, that once you find, it takes a lot to move it, but once it's finally moving, it's hard to stop. When you have a culture movement, I picture it's also like that big granite ball in Indiana Jones that slowly starts to come after him as he's trying to get into the cave. But then once it's moving, it's hard to stop. So you can kill it by basically putting up barriers or restricting how people can do their work, or making it very narrow and releasing that flexibility. If I think about a smaller organization or a subculture within a big company, by putting needless processes on things to stop the 1% of people from taking advantage, and really inhibiting and limiting the 99% who really have good intentions, but the process you put in place are to restrict the 1% and not enable the 99%.
Right. So how long have you been doing this now in this particular initiative?
This particular initiative I've been on for just about a year. Before that I was on another major culture transformation within the organization, half the organization, and then I got tapped to go lead this bigger initiative over here. But beyond that, I've been doing this for probably about 6 years before that in my own business, working more with team effectiveness. But team effectiveness and the culture of a team is really amplified when you get into a department, and then amplified even more when you get into an organization or an enterprise. It's all about culture.
So if you were to look at your greatest accomplishment in the last 12 to 24 months working within the Allstate program, what would be your greatest accomplishment?
I'd say driving the business to us to ask us for how we can leverage the ambassadors. Not us going to the business and saying, hey, look, how can we help you? But really saying, what are your business challenges? What are you looking for? What does success look like? And then being a consultant or an advisor to them and saying, here are some options and opportunities that we think that we can help enable you to achieve those goals. So really the business coming to us and respecting the ambassador program and leveraging the culture and the resources that we currently have.
And what about challenges? What's the absolute number one challenge you have moving this program to the next level?
So this is like a great to fabulous story. So it's the little things that are going to make the biggest difference. I think right now what I'm doing is I'm creating mini design teams to have them go out and look at challenges and actually take their perspective and bring it back into the movement and help that shape the direction of the movement in total. Its nuances, I have to discern, is it one person's voice or are they representing a bigger population of people? I say my biggest challenge is respecting the individuals, of course respecting the business in the process, and really understanding what is the movement telling me and how do I help continue to tweak the direction of the movement going forward.
Does a program like this have the ability to sustain itself without a person like you in this role? So does it ever get to the point where you've created a program and now it can run on its own, or does it always need a driver to sit on top and keep moving it?
Short answer, it doesn't need a driver. the driver can be a group of people who have a passion for this. That's my ultimate goal in this, is to prove Peter Block right. He's a great consultant. He wrote a book called Community. He also did Flawless Consulting and all these sorts of things. And I believe that community can be self-sustainable. It does need direction. It does need a certain amount of structure, but that can be provided by volunteers or people who are passionate about stepping up in leadership. How you do that is very difficult, though. How do you take an existing person in place and allow for other people to lead the direction of the movement? It's very difficult, and it can be done. It just needs to be done
Carefully?
Carefully,
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago when we were talking, I mentioned to you I recently became certified as a culture coach, and how culture and strategy kind of go hand in hand. And you responded to that comment talking about at Allstate that the word culture is actually part of or a component of the ultimate strategy of the organization. Share your thoughts on that a little bit.
Sure. I think some of what Allstate believes, or what in what I believe, they go kind of hand in hand. I think that there's this thing called organizational health. You need to have the health of the organization financially as well as the culture working. And they both support each other in that process. The more financial opportunities you have and the more your company is growing, the greater opportunity you have to cover up things that may cause culture issues, because people have opportunities. They can grow, they can be promoted, they have new areas of the business that they can go in. Without the financial progress, it makes it difficult to sustain a positive and productive culture, because the culture is an energy, and the energy is either working towards something or it's working as a grapevine effect and deteriorating what is already out there and pointing holes and bringing up the flaws in what's there. So it's really about harnessing that energy, and that ties to my martial arts. If somebody much bigger than me is going to come at me and want to punch me, I'm not going to try to block them and do something that might destroy me or hurt me in the long run. What I simply want to do is redirect the energy from that person and focus it in the area that's going to help us best. Same thing with the culture movement. It's redirecting the energy of the culture movement in the direction that's going to serve the business and the results that they're looking for.
Right. So we always talk about culture, and you always make a comment, big company, small company, very different. So, hopefully our audience that's going to be watching the show will be comprised of big company people, small company people, entrepreneurs. What would be a message for the big company person, and then what would be the message for the small company person in terms of what can they do now to start to look at culture differently and maybe put some action in place?
I think to both sides, it's about role modeling. If you as a leader say, here's the direction that we want to go in, then you have to role model the work. If you're saying that we value integrity and we value flexibility and autonomy, then you better be living that, because it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do more than anything.
Right.
So I think for the large organization, it's really about role modeling the work, and it takes more time to do that. So find the areas that are really working, highlight those bright spots, maybe have your corporate relations team write some stories about that and help boost that through the organization, because when people see something working, they want to be a part of that, or they'll resist it. Once you get over the resistance from those initial resistors and let the momentum take it, you almost can't stop the movement. You just need to direct it. For small companies, role model it, because your actions and your words are absolutely crucial to making the movement. The benefit, though, of a small company is you can immediately react and respond, and if the leader's ready to change, which is always the biggest component, if the leader's ready to change, then ultimately you can respond and change much more quickly to changes in your own company, changes in the marketplace, or changes in your customer market.
Got it. So before I ask you the final question, I'm going to put you in the equivalent of the ESPN hot seat. It's now going to be the culture hot seat. So I'm going to throw out a phrase. Just tell me, the first word or thoughts that come to mind. Great culture.
Zappos.
Terrible culture.
A lot of small companies.
Company to aspire to be like.
I think there's aspects of a lot of different companies. I don't think anybody has it directly right, but I would say Google-ish.
Google-ish, okay, cool. So final question. We come back in a year, right? Take out the crystal ball. We come back in a year, and what is going to be different either at Allstate, what's going to be different with you? So from a culture perspective, what would you like to see occur, whether at Allstate or just within your practice, be accomplished in 12 months from now?
I'll take it from an Allstate perspective first. I think as far as the culture movement goes, I think continuing to let the movement define where it's going and define what success is and continuing to build on those successes, it's taking a lot of leadership from me up front, and I see that being able to be pulled back, and it's more of supporting leadership in the local offices because each one has a local subculture. So I would say it's less about what Michael's vision and intention is, and it's more about what the local leaders are creating to support that. For me personally, it's really just about getting out and speaking to leaders about this and about how they can role model it and about the work that needs to be done. I love to get out there, and it's all about the ripple effect, Barry. I only hear 5% of the good, or I believe I only hear 5% of the good that's being created out there, and so I amplify anything good I hear by 20. I think I want to hear a lot more good, and I want to hear a lot more about the ripple effect that this work that you're doing and the work that we're doing creates to not just companies, not just business results, but the people who work there, the employees, the families, and the local community members from there.
Great. So, well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you joining the show. Obviously, Michael is an example of someone that is making a huge difference at Allstate, and one of the thoughts that we should leave the show with today is really the concept of role model. Be a role model, lead by example, and people will follow. So thank you for coming in, Michael.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.